more videos and problems like this for Intro to Financial Management 301, you can check out Sarai Studies, link in the description box below. The second skill you need to learn in topic 9 is how to compute the risk of a portfolio. And remember that portfolio is just a fancy way of saying multiple investments. So in topic 8, we figured out how to find the risk of a single investment. Now in topic 9, we're trying to find the risk of multiple investments. Recall that risk is equal to standard deviation, but to get to standard deviation, we need to get to variance, and variance is just standard deviation squared. So on your formula sheet, if you want to find the risk of a portfolio, you're really looking for standard deviation squared, so variance of that portfolio. So this is the formula you're going to be looking for, and it's going to look like this. Exactly what we have here, the variance of a portfolio, and to find standard deviation at the end of the day, we can just square root to get rid of the square, and we're just left with the standard deviation of the portfolio. Now, don't worry, I'll explain all of this, but first let's read the problem. You have $6,000 to invest. You invested $2,500 in McDonald's, so McDonald's is what we call Firm 1, Company 1, Stock 1, or Company A, Firm A, Stock A, and so on, and $3,500 in Burger King. They give us standard deviations, they give us a correlation between returns, is 0.40, which is just, this is a correlation between the two stocks. What is the risk of our portfolio? So what is standard deviation? So we just have to find variance and then take the square root to find standard deviation for a portfolio. If you notice, the first thing they ask us is to calculate the weight for each of the stocks and then square them. So in other words, yes, we know that out of the $6,000, we invested $2,500 in McDonald's, but we want that as a percentage. So as a percentage, how much weight does McDonald's hold in terms of your wealth? Which stock holds the most importance in terms of your wealth? So let McDonald's be stock A and Burger King be stock B. So the weight of stock A is equal to, well, out of the $6,000 you invested, $2,500 went to stock A. And if you put that into the calculator, you get 0.42. Meaning that out of the $6,000 that you invested, 42% of it went to McDonald's. And so to find the rest of it, well, then that would just be 100% minus 42%. So in other words, since we're dealing with decimals, just 1 minus 0.42, that is 0.58. So you could have just done, out of the $6,000 you invested $3,500 and gotten the same answer, or just what we did, 1 minus 0.42 to get the rest, which is 0.58. So out of the $6,000 you invested, McDonald's holds 42% and Burger King holds 58% of your wealth. So Burger King has the most weight. So we already have these, it's just that here the weight for stock A is squared, so we have that squared. We also have the weight of stock B. And now what is this? Well, read the problem. They say that the standard deviation for these firms is 20% and 30%. Remember, standard deviation is just this, but over here we see this but squared. And so what is standard deviation squared? Variance. So they just basically want the variance of stock A, the variance of stock B. Or in other words, if they give you standard deviation, so they give you this, then all you have to do is square these. So that's 20% in decimals squared, and then we have 30% in decimals squared, and then plus bring down that 2, and then here we just plug in 0.20 on 0.30 and we don't have to square. Now finally, what is this? This is what we call the correlation of stocks A and B. They give you the correlation, it's 0.40. If we put that into the calculator, we get that our variance for our portfolio is equal to 0.0490. But remember, risk means standard deviation. Here I have standard deviation squared, so it's variance. I don't want that. So to get rid of that square, I'm just going to square root to get rid of this. So square root of that, let's do second square root, second, answer, enter. I get that my standard deviation for my portfolio is equal to 0.2214. If I multiply by 100, I can say that the risk of this portfolio is 22.14%. That's how risky this portfolio is. Now, a few things. At the beginning, you might have been like, well, to compute the risk of two investments, because we have one investment in McDonald's and the other one in Burger King, well, why don't we just add the standard deviation of both of them? Well, it's a good idea, but you're failing to take into account that these investments, these stocks, do not behave independently. They can influence each other. An example would be, let's say company A was a company that sold steel for cars and its stock increased, right? Then what does that mean for company B, who is Ford, who makes cars? Well, their stock is going to decrease. Why would they decrease? Because Ford needs metal. And so if the stock is going up, that probably means that prices are going up. And so it's getting more expensive for company B to produce their cars, and so costs are going up, so the stock goes down. So that's the rough idea. They influence each other. And so we have to adjust for that influence with this. And it's really based off this little part, which is the correlation between the two stocks. So back to McDonald's and Burger King. If the correlation is greater than 1, that means that the two stocks are positively correlated. Or in other words, think of them as positively related. So if one does something, the other one will do it. So we have stock A and stock B, and it's good when stock A goes up. That means that stock B will go up, and that's great. But what happens when stock A goes down? Well, because they're positively correlated, B is going to copy and it's also going to go down. And remember that you have money invested in both of these. So if both of them are going down, if you have that possibility because you have two stocks that are positively correlated, that's a risky investment. And mathematically, you can see that if the correlation is positive, you're going to have a positive number in here. Well, it's just going to add onto the risk once you take the square root of it. Now, if you have a correlation that's less than 1, so you have a stock A and stock B, that means that they are negatively correlated, meaning they're going to do the opposite. So if this one goes down, then this one will go up. But this is great because it balances out, because when one stock loses, the other one gains. So it reduces the overall risk. And mathematically, if the correlation is negative, so this is negative, then you're really subtracting from the overall risk. So it's less risky when you have diverse, negatively correlated stocks. And then finally, when your correlation is equal to 0, look at what happens. If this is 0, the correlation between stocks A and B, everything here cancels out. And so you save yourself from adding all of this. And so your overall risk is less. So it's less risky. So that means that there is no influence between the stocks A and B. Now, a further point, remember that more risk means more reward. Because over here, when you have a correlation that's greater than 1, that means you have two stocks that are positively correlated. Yes, that's more risky because if it's the case where one goes down, the other one goes down, then all of your investments are going down, that's bad. But if it's the case that one goes up, the other one has to go up, and that would be a really good situation. But it is risky. But because it's so risky, if the situation comes up, the reward's going to be really good. So keep that in mind, and that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next.